Every conversation is a test, and most men fail before they even open their mouth. Not because they're unkind, but because they're predictable, safe, boring. They try to be agreeable, ask the right questions, say the right things, and then wonder why she forgets them the moment they leave. But here's the truth. Modern women aren't moved by politeness. They're moved by presence, by tension, by the feeling that a man sees through them and knows exactly where to lead the conversation, and her. Now listen closely. Machiavelli never wrote about seduction, but he's still the ultimate mentor for any man who wants to master it. Why? Because he understood human nature, deeper than anyone, and how people follow those who create emotional gravity. And in a world where women are constantly approached, complimented, and flattered, only the man who speaks with strategic weight makes her stop, feel, and submit emotionally. This video gives you 7 communication shifts every powerful man must master, not to entertain her, but to lead her, to create tension, to disrupt her mental patterns, and to slowly rewire her into craving more of you, your presence, your influence, and eventually, your touch. This isn't about lines. It's about verbal domination, subtle, surgical, unforgettable. Let's begin. Here's the first shift, and it's the one that instantly makes her lean in instead of mentally checking out. You don't speak like you're trying to finish a sentence. You speak like you're planting questions in her mind. Most men talk in straight lines. Question, answer, logic, next topic. They talk to complete something, not to create anything. But a magnetic man, he speaks in curved lines. He hints. He implies. He pauses. He allows gaps, tension, and contrast to exist without rushing to resolve them. Because when you talk like a mystery, not a message, she starts leaning forward. She starts feeling something rise inside her. Confusion, followed by intrigue, followed by anticipation. And here's why that matters. Modern women are flooded with words, texts, notifications, podcasts, reels. But what they crave is silence between the words, tension in the unspoken. That's what makes their mind race. That's what makes desire build. Machiavelli would have told you, power belongs to the man whose meaning must be deciphered, not explained. So instead of over-talking, slow down, say half of what you mean, and say it with presence. Don't rush to the point. Let her search for it. Because when a woman feels like she has to decode you, you become a puzzle she wants to solve. And once her mind locks onto the mystery, her body soon follows. Here's your next solution. Speak less. Weigh your words. Let them feel intentional. When she asks questions, answer with curiosity. When she opens up, reflect without revealing too much of yourself. Keep just enough distance between what you say and what you mean. And soon, she'll be the one trying to close the gap. Here's the second shift, and it's what turns you from interesting guy at the bar into a thought she can't shake the next day. You don't just impress her in the moment. You leave something behind. Most men try to be funny, agreeable, or charming during the conversation. But the Machiavellian communicator, he's playing a longer game. He doesn't just want her attention. He wants real estate in her mind. And that happens when you plant emotional anchors, short, vivid, unusual ideas that keep echoing after you've left. Let me explain. If you say something basic, she forgets. If you say something extreme, she resists. But if you say something that bends the frame, just slightly, it starts growing inside her. Examples? You challenge her worldview. You flip a belief upside down. You describe something about her she hasn't noticed herself. You don't lecture. You don't debate. You just leave a seed and walk away. And later, when she's brushing her teeth or laying in bed, Something triggers that moment. That's what creates obsession. That's what makes her want to reach out. Machiavelli would have whispered, "The strongest influence is not seen in the moment of speaking, but in the silence that follows." Here's what to do instead of trying to be memorable. Say less. But say what no one else is willing to. Interrupt her patterns, subtly. Plant something thought-provoking. Leave space for her mind to fill in the blanks. Because once a woman starts filling in the blanks with her own imagination, you've already won. This third shift is subtle, but it separates a boy looking for validation from a man who controls the energy in any room. He never fights for the frame. He rewrites it in silence. In conversations, especially with modern women who are intelligent, assertive, and socially trained to test your confidence, you will be challenged. She might tease you, disagree with you, question your standards, laugh at your seriousness, mock your intensity. Most men either defend themselves or fold to avoid conflict. But a Machiavellian man? He doesn't explain himself. He doesn't need the last word. He doesn't even acknowledge the frame she tried to impose. He simply redirects. He lets her finish. Then, with zero emotional reaction, he moves the conversation where he wants it to go. This is called frame control by redirection. You don't resist. You don't validate. You don't deny. You replace. Example. She says, "That's kind of arrogant of you." Most men would apologize or argue. You simply smile and say, "Maybe, but tell me, what do you usually do when someone doesn't give you the answer you expect?" Suddenly, the frame is hers again, but it's exposed. She's disarmed, not through force, but through elegance. Machiavelli would have said, "Never meet opposition with noise. Meet it with redefinition." Here's your next solution. Expect her to challenge you. In fact, welcome it. But never meet fire with fire. Meet it with ice. Keep your tone calm, your body still, your eyes focused. Let her feel that nothing she says can take you out of control, because you're too grounded in who you are. That's what makes her respect you. That's what turns tension into trust. And that's what makes her open up in ways she never planned to. Here's the fourth shift, and it's how you make her forget the world around her. You stop trying to explain yourself and start building movies in her mind. Modern women are used to hearing men talk about themselves, their goals, their job, their opinions, their past relationships, but very few men ever transport them. That's your edge. You don't inform, you immerse. You tell stories, not to impress her, but to activate her emotional brain. When a man tells the right kind of story, two things happen. Her mirror neurons fire. She feels what you felt. She lowers her guard. Because it's not about her, it's about your world. And if you do it right, you don't even need to describe a relationship. You can talk about travel, pain, growth, failure, a moment that changed you. The key is, show, don't tell. Instead of saying, "I learned to trust myself more after my divorce," you say, "I remember standing outside that apartment in the middle of winter. No furniture, just a mattress. And I realized, I can rebuild everything." See the difference? One is explanation, the other is immersion. Machiavelli would have told you, control the imagination and you control the heart. Here's your next solution. Build a vault of 3 to 5 powerful personal stories. Keep them tight, visual, emotional, but never too polished. Tell them slowly, with gravity, with eye contact. And watch her body language shift. Her legs cross. Her breathing slows. Her eyes soften. Because in that moment, you're no longer a man she's talking to. You're a man she's inside of, mentally. And that's what makes her want to be closer, physically. Here's the fifth shift, And it's what turns the usual dynamic upside down. You speak less, so she ends up chasing the silence. Modern women are used to men who try to impress them with words. They overshare, over-explain, oversell. Why? Because they're trying to fill the space, thinking the more they say, the more value they bring. But the mature man understands something far more powerful. Mystery creates momentum. He knows that what he doesn't say matters more than what he does. So instead of overloading her with facts, jokes, or stories, he drops a sentence, then lets the silence breathe. He pauses mid-thought. He gives half an answer. He starts something and doesn't finish it. Not because he's unsure, but because he's in no rush to be understood. And in doing so, he creates a vacuum, a tension, a curiosity that she starts trying to resolve. She asks more questions. She leans in. She follows his energy. And suddenly, she's the one leading the conversation, trying to keep it going, trying to decode him. That's not manipulation. That's magnetism. Machiavelli would have said, "He who reveals himself fully gives away his power. Let her hunger for the rest." Here's your next move. Start practicing silence like it's a skill, because it is. When she asks something, answer briefly, then pause. When you tell a story, let the moment sit after a key detail. When you look at her, don't always break eye contact first. These little moments create pressure, and women feel it in their body. Their breath changes. Their mind starts wandering, and suddenly, she's not just listening to you, she's feeling you. That's what makes her remember you. That's what makes her want more, even when you haven't said much at all. Here's the sixth shift, and it's the one almost no man dares to use. You subtly let her know, she's not the prize. You are. Now, this doesn't mean disrespecting her. It doesn't mean negating her beauty, her success, or her power. It means making her feel, without saying it, that you don't just give your attention to anyone. Most men validate too quickly. They tell her she's beautiful without knowing her. They say, "You're amazing," without watching how she handles pressure. They reward looks instead of behavior. But the mature man? He waits. He observes. He withholds judgment. Not as a game, but as a standard. He makes her wonder, am I impressing him? Does he like me? Or is he just being polite? What does it take to actually earn this man's respect? And in that shift, the entire dynamic changes. Now she's showing you her best stories. Now she's trying to be funny. Now she's telling you her real self. Why? Because she feels the one thing she rarely feels around men. She's being evaluated. And that's what makes her start investing. That's what makes her value your praise. That's what makes her crave more of you. Because nothing was given for free. Machiavelli would have said, "The privilege that is hard to win is the one most deeply desired." Here's your next solution. Hold your compliments. Hold your opinions. Hold your conclusions until she's shown you enough to deserve them. Not because you're playing cold, but because you respect yourself too much to hand over attention like candy. When she realizes that, she leans in, she softens, she opens. Because now she's not just impressed, she's invested. Let's close with the seventh and final shift, the one that makes you echo in her mind long after the words have stopped. It's the one that transcends flirting, seduction, even physical tension. You become a man who upgrades her mind, not with lectures, not with arrogance, not with over-explaining what she should do, but through how you speak, how you observe, how you ask questions that no one else asks her, because no one else sees her the way you do. You challenge her ideas, but with calm, not aggression. You notice the contradiction she didn't hear in her own story, but you bring it up with curiosity, not criticism. You share a story from your life that mirrors hers, and suddenly, her problem feels smaller, lighter, solvable. And in that moment, you stop being a man she's flirting with. You become a man she wants to grow through. That's what younger women rarely find. That's what they secretly crave. Not a guy who tells them they're sexy. They already know. Not a guy who wants to impress them. That's boring. They want a man whose mind makes them think, whose silence makes them question, whose confidence makes them realize how much more they want to learn, feel, understand. And when she leaves your presence with more clarity, when she walks away feeling more self-aware, when your questions ring in her head the next day, that's when desire locks in. Not because you tried to be memorable, but because your way of thinking restructured hers. Machiavelli would have said, "He who sharpens her thoughts, sharpens her hunger." Here's how you apply this. Listen more than you speak. But when you speak, say something no one else dares to say. Don't tell her what to believe. Ask her why she believes it. Don't try to fix her. Reflect her better than any mirror ever could. Because when you become the man who leaves a woman thinking about her own life more deeply, you become unforgettable. And that memory, that depth, that mental fingerprint you left on her, it's what makes her come back. It's what makes her reach out again. It's what makes her drop the games and drop everything else. Because she knows. No one else makes her feel this seen. And the body always follows the mind. Everything we've said leads to this last truth. You've just stepped into the version of yourself that no longer chases, because he doesn't need to. You've left behind the habits of men who overgive, overtalk, and overprove. And instead, you've embodied what every woman truly craves but rarely admits. A man with gravity. A man who doesn't fill space. He commands it. Now you speak less and get listened to more. You move slower and make her heart race faster. You don't ask to be chosen because you've become the standard she measures others by. This isn't game. It's power. Grounded in presence, sharpened by experience, made magnetic through restraint. And once a woman feels that, she doesn't want options. She wants you, not for what you say, but for what you are. Stable, clear, decisive. A man who doesn't need to raise his voice to change the room. So hold this identity, protect it, live it, in your posture, your words, your choices. Because from this moment on, you're not just someone she's attracted to. You're the man she hopes will choose her and fears she might not deserve. If this opened your eyes and you're serious about becoming the man who's in full control of his life, my book is now available. The Undeniable Man, Built to be Chosen. It's a strategic guide for men who want to attract, lead, and dominate in their love life and beyond. Whether you're single or in a relationship, no fluff, no tricks, just pure, powerful strategy that will set you apart from 99% of men, and that you will actually use every day. The link is in the description. And if this video spoke to you, don't just keep your thoughts in your head. Write a comment, even just a few words. It helps you remember these lessons, and it might help someone else too. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this content, and share it with someone who, in your eyes, needs it right now. Just trust your instinct. We're all trying to get clearer, more solid inside. So let's build minds that don't break.